South Africa is also actively involved in the African Union High-Level Ad Hoc Committee on South Sudan, a body we chair. We reiterate our call on all South Sudanese stakeholders to fully and effectively implement the revitalized peace agreement on the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, to bring an end to the suffering of the civilian population, and to take South Sudan to its first democratic elections. South Africa is extremely troubled to witness the devastating and wanton fighting in the Republic of Sudan. This conflict comes at a time when the region's security situation is deteriorating. The signing of political framework agreement between the civilian political forces and the military institution in Sudan on the 5th of December 2022 was a first critical step towards the formation of a civilian-led transitional government. The deterioration of the security and the humanitarian situation is regrettable. As a matter of urgency, there must be unconditional cessation of hostilities, which will be the first step to a comprehensive response to the humanitarian crisis that is currently unfolding in Sudan. With regards to cultivating strategic bilateral and multilateral partnerships, despite existing challenges, South Africa maintains robust and cordial relations with key global partners. The United States of America, South Africa and the United States continue to engage at the highest level, as evidenced by the recent teleconference between President Ramaphosa and President Trump. While discussions on issues such as the 30% unilateral trade tariffs imposed by the US highlight areas of concern, the bilateral relationship remains resilient and continuing in terms of engagements. We continue to hold several strategic meetings at various political and government levels, including recent meetings that were held by the Charge d'Affaires of the US, Mr. David Green, with myself, and our various ministers in government. Deputy Minister Boots and his counterpart, the Deputy Secretary of State, Mr. Christopher Landau, also engaged via a video conference recently discussing matters of mutual concern, including trade, geopolitical issues, and domestic matters. These engagements are ongoing, and later this week, we will be hosting a US congressional staff delegations from the House of Foreign Affairs Committee. As you are aware, I also had engagements with Mr. Bulow, President Trump's advisor on the African continent, on domestic matters ranging from broad-based black economic empowerment, the Expropriation Act. We continue to reiterate that these are matters which are firmly within the grasp of the South African people and its sovereignty. Furthermore, in relation to the assertion of human rights violation as contained in the latest US Human Rights Report 2024, we reiterate that the allegations of state-sponsored violations of human rights are not factual. As highlighted previously, according to the South African Police Service's official statistics on rural safety for the fourth quarter of 2024-2025 financial year, 1 January 2025 to 31 March 2025, a total of 6 murder cases were reported in farming communities. A breakdown of the victims reveals that these crimes are not targeted against a single racial group. For example, 3 victims were employees in the farm, 1 victim was a farm dweller, and 2 victims were farmers. And you know the racial profiles of these type of victims. We know that most of the employees in the farm areas are black, and most of the farm dwellers are also usually black. The 2 victims who were farmers, you also know they are usually white in South Africa. These figures underscore that violent crime in rural areas affects everyone who lives and works on farms and related rural areas. While the loss of any life is a tragedy, these statistics do not reveal a pattern of action driven by inflammatory racial rhetoric against a specific community, or that it is racially motivated. These statistics are continuously being reviewed every quarter with inputs from all the stakeholders in rural safety landscape. Engagements with the European leaders. President Ramaphosa recently held a teleconference with President Zelensky of Ukraine, President Emmanuel Macron of France, and President Alexander Stubb of Finland. Additional calls with other European leaders will follow in coming days and weeks to discuss key international developments, including the ongoing situation in Ukraine and Russia. The Director General of the department, Mr. Zendengo, has been in Kiev recently to meet with the different actors in government, including in the foreign ministry and national security structures, towards efforts to sustain South Africa's support for the peace initiative and also the Africa initiatives and all global efforts aimed at finding long-lasting peace in this conflict. Middle East and Asia. South Africa reiterates its calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The continued killing of Palestinians has risen exponentially, and we maintain that a ceasefire is necessary to halt the humanitarian crisis. A joint report by a 4-member of the United Nations agency has confirmed our worst fears that failure to implement the provisional measures or a ceasefire obtained by South Africa in the International Court of Justice has led to a man-made famine. The means necessary to sustain life in Gaza is being destroyed, which is further evidence of genocidal intent. As the South African government, we call for the Israel government to accept the current ceasefire on the table that has been negotiated by all the relevant stakeholders. We reiterate our call for the release of all hostages and political prisoners from both sides. We continue to welcome global efforts to ensure the implementation of international law. These include initiatives such as the Madrid Group and the Hague Group, which we lead recently in Bogota, with 30 cross-regional countries participating, which we're co-chairing with Colombia. The Deputy Minister, Thandi Moraka, and the Director General recently concluded working visits to the Middle East, and the Deputy Minister visited the Kingdom of Jordan and the United Arab Emirates, while the Director General has also concluded a working visit to Qatar to consult on bilateral and regional peace and security issues. Japan, TICAD. President Ramaphosa led a high-level delegation to the 9th Tokyo International Conference on the Development in Africa in Japan. The summit's theme, Co-Creating Innovative Solutions with Africa, aligned with South Africa's vision for a continent seeking partnerships, not aid. President Ramaphosa urged Japan to support tariff cooperation for Africa goods and emphasized the need for partnerships in infrastructure, energy, digital development, skills training, and youth innovation. The successful business forum and high-level meetings with major Japanese corporations, including Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and Toyota Tsusho, signal strong and positive Japanese economic interest in South Africa. Approximately 200 South African companies participated, and Japanese companies participated in the economic theme side events held on the margins of the summit. These represent very strong and positive signal of economic and trade investments in South Africa. Japan remains one of the highest investors in the South African economy, and we commend its innovative approach to partnerships of equals with the African continent. South Africa will continue to leverage its diplomatic influence to advance national interests, contribute to regional and continental stability, and build a more just and a prosperous world. South Africa's G20 presidency has entered its last 100 days. These past 8 months have seen significant work being undertaken in both the Sherpa and the finance track, with 87 of the 132 officials meetings on the calendar already having taken place. South Africa is well on its way in preparations towards hosting a successful G20 summit for the first time on the African soil. And we want to commend all government departments and the private sector that hosted some of these very successful meetings across the country. 87 meetings is no child's play, and all of them have been incident-free, and they have happened across the breadth of the country, which has also showcased some of our very good and beautiful tourist destinations. but there has also been decisions. Currently, only G20 working groups are seized with negotiations on ministerial declarations and outcomes. Under the Sherpa track, 2 G20 working groups have already successfully adopted G20 ministerial declarations: the Development Working Group and the Employment Working Group. These outcomes were adopted on the 25th of July 2025 and 31 July 2025 respectively. The next round of ministerial meetings will take place in September 2025. Under the finance track, the 4th G20 Finance and Central Bank Deputies meeting took place on the 14th to the 15th of July, followed by the 3rd G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting that took place on the 17th and 18th July 2025 in Durban, South Africa. The Finance Ministers meetings outcomes were agreed in a communique consented to all member states that centers on strategic microeconomic issues. South Africa's G20 presidency has also entered its most crucial phase with the preparations towards the G20 Leaders Summit. The negotiations taking place for the working group ministerial meetings will set the tone for the forthcoming discussions on the G20 Johannesburg Leaders Declaration. Furthermore, preparations are underway for several key meetings still to be hosted, including the G20 Compact with Africa to take place in Johannesburg, South Africa in early October 2025. Food and security meeting taking place in Cairo in Egypt in September 2025. This is in line with South Africa's undertaking to spread some of this meeting to the continent, and we're glad that Egypt has agreed to host one of the meetings. There's also a meeting on industrialization and agriculture in Abuja, in Nigeria, in October 2025. Again, we also thank Nigeria for agreeing to host one of these meetings. This shows our commitment to ensure that the African voice is heard and does play a role in the hosting of the G20. The second G20 Foreign Ministers meeting is scheduled to take place on the 25th September on the margins of the UNGA 80 High-Level Week in New York at the United Nations headquarters. The second G20 Foreign Ministers meeting is significant in that it will be the second time that a G20 Foreign Ministers meeting will be hosted at the UN, with all UN members and observer states invited, following Brazil's initiative last year, and as the United Nations celebrates the 80th anniversary of its existence. As the premier forum for international economic cooperation, the G20 has a pivotal role to play in contributing to UN efforts aimed at creating an economically prosperous world that contributes towards the sustenance of global peace. It is only when the world is at peace that economic prosperity can be sustained. Regarding the G20 Social Summit, preparations are underway to ensure the G20 Social Summit is successful, with wide attendance and participation from civil society. The Social Summit, scheduled for 18 to 20 November 2025, is one of the key highlights under South Africa's presidency by expanding outreach to communities beyond 13 G20 engagement groups. Civil society organizations, think tanks, and academia from across the world will be invited to join the second G20 Social Summit. Finally, these final months of South Africa's G20 presidency will be crucial in ensuring a successful Leaders Summit where the G20 can commit to collective solutions for shared global challenges. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. See, the hands are already going up. That's a good sign. We are also joined by our UN political desk expert. Zahir, you're not an advocate yet. Is Mr. Zahir here? Okay. Let's take the hands in the room. Let's start from the back. Zoleka, right? Zoleka, Moloto, Ms. Payton, Clement, and let's end here. Then we'll start the new row there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Minister, good afternoon. My name is Zoleka Kotashe from Newsroom Africa. Minister, you mentioned that the relations between South Africa and the United States are quite strong still at the moment, despite the 30% tariff hikes that we've been hit with. Excuse me. But there are reports of the SWIFT international banking system and South Africa being cut from it. Of course, this affects South Africa's ability to pay its creditors. What impact do you think this will have on South Africa? Is there any truth to those reports? As well as if you could answer about what South Africa plans to do about this in light of the recent relations between South Africa and the United States, and if you believe that this is the United States kind of skinning a cat in different ways. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Moluko Moloto from ENCA. Minister, since his appointment as the President's envoy in April, if memory serves me well, are you able to perhaps give us just an idea of the work that Mr. Mcebisi Jonas has done? But also, has he ever been to the United States? Was he granted a visa? And considering the recent developments with the United States Justice Department essentially accusing MTN, a company that Mr. Jonas chairs, is government still of the view that Mr. Mcebisi Jonas is the right person to at least facilitate relations between Pretoria and Washington, or are you open perhaps to considering someone else? But also, lastly, the last remarks by the US president in regard to the G20, he was saying that he's not sure whether he will come here or not. Are you perhaps aware as to whether there has been development in that regard? But what about the Chinese president? Will he be coming for the G20?
Hello, Minister Nellie Payton from Reuters. I wanted to ask if you can tell us anything else about the U.S. congressional staff delegation that will be visiting this week. Is that related to the bill in Congress, the bill that the House of Foreign Affairs Committee has put forward about resetting relations with South Africa? And can you tell us anything about the goal of that congressional visit? Thanks.
Yes, hello. Clement from AFP News Agency. Also a question about the talks with the US. I'm particularly interested in the NDA part. Is it common practice for two sovereign states to have to sign an NDA to engage into diplomatic and commercial talks? What does this NDA cover? And do you have knowledge of other Western or Northern Hemisphere countries having to sign that sort of NDA?
Thanks. Gert van der Westhuizen from Netwerk 24, Minister. Did the utterances of the Chief of the Defense Force in Iran, was that discussed during the negotiations with the Americans? And did it have any impact on the negotiations? And then just a second question, please. How can international law ever be re-established after Israel just ignored the International Court of Justice several times in the past few months?
Colleagues, do you mind if the minister answers from there, or would it affect your microphone? Huh? Does he come here? Okay, Minister. Some difficult questions for you.
Yeah, no, obviously I can't answer all of them. I believe he will be able to assist. And some of them that you may want to engage on. Yeah, with regards to the SWIFT international banking system, at this stage we do not have any non-verbal notifying the South African government that we will be switched off from the SWIFT system. I've seen from an article or a newspaper report about this, which seems to have emerged from the what is currently the ongoing Justice Committee investigation. So it's a speculation by the article, and so there is no such intention that we have received from our side, and we treat it as speculation at this moment, which is not backed by any action to that effect. The bills that are before the US Congress and so forth, they will take a life of their own. In the past, most of them did not reach the final stage and so forth, so we don't know whether these ones will reach a particular stage. So we really obviously continue to monitor that process. But there is nothing that has notified the South African government about switching off the South African government from the SWIFT system. With regards to the issue of the special envoy, yes, he has been doing some work, and it's correct, he has not been to the US at this stage, but he has been doing some work. You have also seen him at the G7 with the president. He has also engaged with various stakeholders on the approach and also on the issues in the background. Whether the South African government is considering someone else at this stage, no, for the role of the special envoy, no. As you will know, the role of a special envoy is not permanent. It's a temporary process. What we are currently considering, and almost at an advanced stage, is the appointment of a permanent ambassador, and that will be done soon. So that is what is currently on the table. Whether President Trump will come to the G20 or not, the last communication we had with him, he had confirmed that he will come when President Ramaphosa was at the White House. We have, however, noted and taken note of his comments that he may not come, and he may send somebody else. So from the South African government, the US government is invited to the G20, and President Trump is invited, is welcome to the G20, but it's the US government's decision who they want to participate in the G20. If President Trump sends somebody else, is his decision. We will proceed with the G20 with or without President Trump, and with whoever that he will have delegated to come to the G20, and we will accept whoever that he delegates and who attends the G20 on behalf of the American people or on his behalf. And we think that will still make South Africa's G20 to move forward to adopt an outcome document. So at this stage, I believe no one can say with certainty whether President Trump will come or not. it's an unpredictable situation. So we will hear the final weight from the US as and when they decide. But whatever that they decide, the G20 will proceed. And we will work on all the leaders that will be present to find an outcome. Whether President Xi is coming at this stage, we don't have any information to the contrary. He is also invited. We believe he will come. There is no indication otherwise. Once that is communicated, we will advise. With regards to whether we are aware of other countries signing the NDA, it's the nature of an NDA. It's a non-disclosure agreement, so it's confidential. We have signed because we wanted to continue to engage with the process of the tariffs to reduce the 30% of the tariffs that have been imposed on South Africa. And still, again, it's also uncertain whether we will succeed or not. But we are putting our best efforts to succeed with regards to the reduction of the 30% tariffs. And this is not just a South African challenge. It's a challenge across the globe. Many countries, India, Brazil, Switzerland, many countries across the globe are uncertain like we are. So we will see from the outcomes at the time when there is a response whether we are succeeding or not. But we have to continue to engage, to put efforts, and also to continue with diversification of our markets, to look in the east and to other countries that remains open to trade with South Africa. With regards to whether in the negotiations the issue of the veterancies of the General of the Defense has been raised, no, not at this stage, but we have received a note verbal from the US with regards to the utterances. With regards to the International Court of Justice, I don't know if Zahiri will want to speak to that, or must I? Are you okay? Yeah, it is important that we continue to protect and promote the international rule of law. And it's a view we share with other member states of the United Nations. And that's why we now have what is called the Hague Group, with many countries that have joined to protect and vindicate the international rule of law. And that is the aim of the Hague Group, so that member states of the UN and also countries respect the rulings of the ICJ. And I believe that it may take some time, but there will be implementation of the ICJ decisions, including of the International Criminal Court. You can dive and dive, but a moment will arrive where accountability will definitely happen. But I will not know with certainty when. But there is no one who can run away from the rule of law.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. I know there are colleagues online who are complaining about the sound. I hope it's being addressed by the technical team.
You can respond to one of the agenda of Congress.
Oh, the congressional staffers. Yes, I will respond. Thank you, Minister. Yes, we will be hosting a delegation of 3 congressional staffers. We are not able as yet to reveal their names, but once we have consulted and the consultations are done, where necessary, we will provide an update, as we have been doing on meetings of this nature, through the various manners in which we provide updates. I've seen there's also a similar question on that nature. I think Karen Duplessis on our WhatsApp channel has asked that question, and so it's addressed. Nelson, let's take a round of questions from you, then we'll come back in the room.
All right, thank you, Crispin. One question is from Amanda Koza from News 24. Can the department tell us when the South African government will repatriate the remains of the late Zambian president Edgar Lungu? This is in light of the Constitutional Court ruling. That is one question. The other question is from Karin Duplessis. She says, I have a question about the visa applications confirmed by the Department of Home Affairs of a group of Kenyan employees from CWS to come and process refugees to the US in South Africa. Has Dirco engaged with Kenya on this and with the US? And if so, what has been the outcome? And the other question from Kate from the NPR. Can you confirm reports that the US is trying to get visas for staff working for the Church World Service in Kenya to come to work to South Africa? It's a similar question to the one earlier. Then the other question, the third, last question in this round, from the BBC, Mayeni Jones. In March, President Ramaphosa visited the city of Joburg and he tasked officials to clean up and ahead of the summit, but the inner city is still in a dire state. Why has the area not been upgraded as promised?
I think are those the only questions? Let's take this.
We should take all of them. Okay. The other question is from Peter Fabricius. He has two questions. The first is, were the two South African women who were rescued in Russia specifically rescued from Alabuga? How did they get there? And then the second question is, what is the BRICS Plus employment women's alliance? Does the South African government recognize it? Does it entail sending South African women workers to work at Alabuga in Russia?
Okay, so the questions online. Maybe, how many are those? Maybe let's take two more from the room and then we'll give the minister an opportunity to respond. Let's start with this gentleman here and then SABC.
Thank you. Hello, Vital Mike from TAS News Agency. I have short two questions. First of all, you spoke about the African initiative towards the peace in Ukraine. President Ramaphosa spoke with leaders. Mr. Dangor with Kyiv. What on South Africa should be the next step in the peace process in Ukraine? And the next question related to the General Assembly in September in New York. Who will lead the delegations? And is still on the table the proposal to enter 2 African states as the permanent member of the Security Council? Could you update on this issue? Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Kylie Shekumalo here from SABC. Minister, just a quick one on the DRC. You said South Africa's return as the incoming chair reaffirms South Africa's role in terms of, just ensuring that we do see long-lasting peace in the eastern part of the DRC. Do you think that's going to be one of Pretoria's priorities come 2026? Because it's been a very long-standing issue. We've seen the talks in Qatar, we've seen M23 saying all sorts of things. But just a quick one as well, Minister, on the relocation of the Taiwan liaison office from Pretoria to Joburg. How far are we with that? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We have noted the court outcome with regards to the reparations of the remains of the former Zambian President Edgar Lungu. And as the South African government, we continue to encourage both the Zambian government and the family of former President Lungu to be engaged in a dialogue that must reach an amicable solution with regards to the procession of the burial of the former Zambian president. And we have maintained this from the onset on the matter, and we are hopeful that this ruling can signal some finality, that he will be buried back in Zambia in his home, and that the Zambian government and the family of former President Lungu will find each other on the procession and all the processes. So it has always been our message to both parties, to the family and to the Zambian government. With regards to the visa application for the Kenyan nationals who have applied to Home Affairs to come and assist with the program that is aimed to fast-track Afrikaners on an immigration program of the US. It's an individual